In this video I'll be showing you the 3 most underrated Photoshop skills for beginners, and they are probably not what you think they are. A lot of beginner tutorials skim essential parts of the Photoshop workflow, focusing mainly on gimmicky tricks. But there are skills that pro artists use that are very rarely covered in YouTube videos and beginner tutorials, which are massively important to creating high-end artworks. These 3 skills will make you look at image creation in a way that isn't all about tools but about imagination and design, giving you a stronger foundation to level up your Photoshop game and soak up the applause of your peers. Trust me, people will notice your new and improved art. The good thing is, these 3 skills are easy to learn and you'll get a ton of benefits from using these non-tool related skills that can be learned by anybody with minimum fuss. Hi guys, I'm Clinton Lofthouse, a pro photographer and Photoshop art worker from the UK, and you're tuned in to photomanipulation.com. Without further ado, let's jump into these underrated skills, and if you want to dive deeper into any of these topics, I go into much more depth in my Art of Composite premium course. There is a link in the description. So skill number 1 is storytelling. Storytelling has been around since the dawn of man. Some scientists believe that storytelling is the reason why Homo sapiens became the dominant species. They would band together through stories, inspiring others to fight against them with other tribes. Crazy, eh? We tell ourselves stories every day inside our minds. It's how we motivate ourselves to do things and how we connect with others. This is why storytelling is an integral part of art. Look, I'm not into asking you to make art that tells stories to inspire your friend to go to war with a local tribe, but what it will add to your work is depth, meaning, and something to keep the viewer engaged. Think back to a book or a movie, the one you couldn't put down, and then to a book or a movie you stopped reading or stopped watching. What was the reason that made you decide to do either? I can probably guess it was the story. It was either engaging or it wasn't. It doesn't matter how many special effects or explosions you have. If the story isn't good enough, people will disengage. So all this is great theory-wise, but how does storytelling affect the technical side or the creating of an artwork? Well, I believe if you have the story worked out before you start the image, it's actually easier to build the artwork. The story guides your choices. It gives you a strong foundation to build on. It will help you choose the correct tone, what small details to add, what expressions your model should have on their faces, and much, much more. All these micro decisions work best with a story. The better you get at storytelling, the better your art will become. Just don't be starting any tribal wars with it, please. In my Road Warrior image, I knew the story in my head before I started, so that made creating the scene easier. Because it was an apocalyptic Mad Max inspired image, I knew that I would need action, explosions, and things like that. I had an idea of what I wanted my model to do, and the various poses needed. I even knew the type of environment needed, so it was easy to find the stock to build that environment up. Don't just create artworks on the fly. Winging it works sometimes, but putting some pre-planning in your images will be so much better as you grow. So, we have one skill out of the way, so let's move on to an underrated skill number 2. And this one is compositional grids. I know what you're all thinking, the rule of thirds. Actually, no. The rule of thirds is actually a bastardized version of an armature grid, simplified down to its most simplest form. Does it have its good points? Yeah, of course, especially for beginners. But if you want to create better, more compositionally pleasing art, then you need to learn about armature grids. Armature grids were used by the master painters. If you look at any painting, all the elements are meticulously planned out. They are working together in a way that the eye cannot maybe see, but the subconscious brain can. Nothing was left to chance in a painting, so don't think these painters had some kind of golden child gift. What they did do was spend countless hours, months and years mastering armature grids, planning the image and then using these grids with other compositional techniques together to create masterpieces of art that still stand up today. If it's good enough for Da Vinci, it's good enough for you. In my Road Warrior piece, I use the armature grid to line up and place my composited elements. The grid uses specific angles and lines which have some art theory attached to using them. I won't be going into full detail in this video, but if you would like to know more about composition and the grids, let me know in the comments, but you can also learn about these elements in my full premium course, The Art of Composite. There's a link in the description. Basically, in the image I wanted the girl and the car, which are the focus of the image, to be along the Baroque diagonal. The angle goes left to right downwards. It is the more natural of the two different angles because that's the way we read, left to right. But what if you wanted to create an image that felt off? Maybe you want to create a sense of confusion. Then this is where the sinister diagonal comes in, because it goes against our natural way of reading an image. It creates an uneasy feeling. Using the grids takes a little time to learn, and you will need to use it with other compositional tools like aerial perspective and Gestalt principles for it to be massively effective. Trust me, once you look at composition in more ways than just the rules or thirds, your art will start to become more deeper and more fulfilling. Finally, let's move on to underrated skill number 3, and this skill ties in nicely with the previous 2 skills, and that is sketching. Now, I know what you're thinking, but I can't sketch. Well, neither can I. It's not really about the quality of the sketching, it's getting an idea out of your head and bringing it to reality on paper or in Photoshop. As you can see from my Road Warrior image, the sketch was terrible. But using the story I have pre-worked out and the armature grid together, I can start to form the foundation of the artwork. I can see where I want the elements and my ideas for placing them. A good way of utilising your sketch is to create it on a layer in Photoshop, which you can turn on and off. It can act as a guide and a reference, and you can even write little notes on it for yourself. Throughout my edit of the Road Warrior image, I would click the sketch layer on and off to remind myself and to make sure I was on track. A sketch may feel like something that isn't needed, but if you use it together with storytelling and the grids, it works so much better than just a sketch on its own. And that's it, my friends. That is the 3 most underrated skills for Photoshop beginners. Although these skills are not tools based or fancy Photoshop tricks, they will help elevate your artworks. Pre-visualizing is an important part of the creative process, and many people don't go to these lengths when creating art. So be the outlier, be the one who puts in the work and reaps the rewards. Do you want to create art that lasts, or hollow art where you are just following the crowds and the trends? I know which I would prefer. The model shots that I took for this shoot I'm going to give away free to you all, so you can use them in your own photo manipulations. Look in the description to see where to download them.